to my castle, ha ha, for I have the sword. Yes. Yes, as you will know if you have had a look on my social media recently, my lovely sister got me a weekend of sword forging at a place called Oldfield Forge in Herefordshire, which is about an hour away from me. So I spent a day getting blisters on my hands. You'll have seen that one on Instagram probably. But they've all healed up now, and I am left with this lovely, lovely leaf blade that Mike and I made together. So that was exciting, and I've just finished making at work this new hilt for it. It had a nice sort of swirly ironwork hilt on it, which I'm repurposing for something else. But I've just finished making this nice wooden sort of vaguely Celtic-y Latin kind of hilt to it. And so yeah, I'm very excited with this. I'm going to find a place to put this. I'm making a sheath for it at the moment. And members, people who are members of this YouTube channel, I shall be doing a video on the making of this. I didn't take any footage while I was making it, so I'm really bad at that kind of thing, especially when there's like 2000-degree forges and things going on and I'm sweating like a pig and my hands dripping from lots of blisters and sores and things. Anyway, I will tell you the story as I walk you through making this and my thoughts for it. So that's coming up. Members, look out for that one. If you're not a member, you can be a member very easily. If you're watching on a browser, you just click the join button down the bottom of this video. It's not very much a month. You could join for a month and then cancel your membership if you just wanted to see the sword making video. But there's a lot of stuff up there, and you get access to members only miniatures, some of which are reissues from Patreon, some of which have never been available on general sale. So take a look in there. But you know, as I have said before, I'm going to carry on making content here, so absolutely zero obligation. But if you are interested in my sword, that's what's going to be coming up very shortly. Behind me, you will see that this is my Goblinoids Combat Cards frame. You've seen this before. This one has been on the wall. I can't remember if it's been in shots before. It hasn't been illuminated before. This is the first time it's been illuminated, and it is filled. Again, you'll have maybe seen some photos on social media. You'll have maybe seen that I've been posting on Instagram the figures from the Warriors combat cards that I have done and taken photos of. So that's all up, and that's the first significant project of the year done. And maybe we'll look at those in a future video if that's of interest to people. But what we're going to do now is take a look at 2 more White Dwarfs, because the month is coming to an end. I read through both of these White Dwarfs about 6 weeks ago, intending to have a big long weekend of sitting down and recording all of my videos for ages and ages and ages, and I got to the video that you might have seen last week. And if you haven't, it's the latest sort of metal miniatures manufacturers, which I could do with my microphone and my laptop. I was struggling for camera things again, but I've got both cameras on the go now, so that's good. But it means that it's been a while, although I flicked through these last night, it's been a while since I actually read them. So this may be a short video, who knows, this may be a video that I have to do many takes on as I forget what I was going to say about each one. But anyway, we are May 1983, 1987, I've even forgotten the year, May 1987, and May 1990. That's what 1992. That's why I'm confused. 5 years apart. 1987, 1992. Such a professional at this. If I was a professional, I'd have said like, subscribe, hit the notifications button, do all of that. Tell your friends, send them here. But anyway, let's enjoy a look through a couple of White Dwarf magazines. Righty then, let's take a look at White Dwarf 89. As you can see from the cover, we have Ravening Hordes, that wonderful Chris Achilles cover from the Ravening Hordes book, and you can see that you can win £2,000 in Citadel miniatures. That's a lot of Citadel miniatures back in the day, and that's not one person. I think that's a general. They're giving away £2,000 worth. So that's not an insignificant amount to be giving away. And here are some of the miniatures that you can get. These beautiful classic orcs and champions, many of which, or at least some of which, or at least a couple of which. Let's see. Fletch here, he's in the cabinet behind me. Mugrunt is actually over in my Hero Quest collection. He's not behind me. Dirksod, he's behind me in the cabinet. Edrig Dwarf Cutter, he's behind me in the cabinet. Big Dig Liver Ripper, he's behind me in the cabinet. All different names, of course, but yes, many of those orcs in the Goblinoids combat cards set. Look, we're going to have to put the price rise up to £1.25. Oh, I should say this is potentially quite a significant White Dwarf, because the reason they're putting the price up by £1.25 is that White Dwarf 90 will be larger, an extra 16 pages of articles, features and adventures. That's 25% bigger than at the moment. It will also actually be slightly shorter than this one, because this is, I think I'm right in saying, we'll find out next month. I think I'm right in saying this is the last of this A4 format White Dwarf. After that, they get shorter but fatter, like a dwarf, I guess, right? But the price goes up to £1.25, which these days would be cheap as chips, but back in the day, maybe not so much. I'm just gonna adjust the lighting. I'm aware that it's a little bit dark on this side and we've got a bit of camera shadow. Just let me adjust the lighting, and I will be back. I think that's a little better. Anyway, open box, we look at the Rogue Trooper board game. Ah, yes, the Rogue Trooper board game. Many an hour spent playing the Rogue Trooper board game. It can be played to a finish in 2 to 3 hours. Well, yeah, maybe it can. It will feel like 8 or 9 hours, I tell you. Yes, not my favourite of the Games Workshop board games. A bit of a classic of its time, though. Lots of moving around, drawing random cards, rolling random dice. One of those games that doesn't really require players to think much. They just have to roll lots of dice and hope that they roll lucky. Does benefit from lots of artwork from 2000 AD. Does fit the feel of the strip quite well. I just wish there was a bit more game and a bit less rolling of dice, but that's Games Workshop of an era, right? Games, certainly in the UK at that time, were basically Ludo and Monopoly, so it was lots of rolling dice and moving stuff, and Games Workshop took those mechanics, weren't terribly inventive with them, and stuck some cool branding on them. So that's what you get mostly. A few exceptions, but mostly it's what you get. Heroes for Wargames here is previewed. Heroes for Wargames feels like a coffee table book. It certainly does. I suspect many a coffee table now certainly are graced by this, all the cool coffee tables at least. Yeah, what a great book to flick through. I actually read it for the first time last year, and it is a weird concoction of stuff. I mean, it's very piecemeal. It's very mixed. There's lots of sort of snippets of things. You feel like anyone who's already in the hobby probably knows most of those things already. But the pictures are fabulous, and so as a coffee table book, as something to flick through, absolutely worth having. Absolutely. And there's a very positive review here for Weird World 2, Wordsley's generic adventure from the Strange Acorn Games. Has anyone played this one? Has anyone even heard of these people? Well, there was a review of their former product, Winter's Farm, in White Dwarf 87, so a little while ago. This is the follow-up to it. And it's an e-zine, well, not an e-zine because they didn't exist. It's a zine publication. So it's a very home-produced word processor, written, printed, stapled booklet thing with not an awful lot of art, but some really great, if this review is to be believed, really great content. A kind of not going to say intellectual, but towards the kind of investigative side rather than the hack and slash side. Sounds like a really cool adventure. Would like to give it a shot, but I bet you absolutely cannot get your hands on these days, unless there's a PDF out there. Somebody might have a PDF of it in their collection. Does seem to be lamentably expensive at £4.95. Not obviously now, but in 80s prices. But that's what you get with an independent, right? They're producing these in much lower quantities than TSR, for example, are producing these carbon copy hack and slash Dungeons and Dragons things. And you get the same these days, of course. Well, I'm not going to say that Games Workshop stuff is significantly cheaper than the stuff that anyone else produces. That's not true, but the big boys are producing stuff in such large quantities that they don't need to worry too much about budgeting and things, whereas small people, it'll cost a little bit extra, but hopefully you'll get something that's a bit more interesting, a bit more innovative, a bit more exciting. Here's a page of awesome lies. I will leave you to read that for yourself because I'm already wattering on a bit. The Enemy Within and Shadows of Bogahuff and campaigns for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Interesting choice of 3 miniatures here. You can't necessarily see them, but there's a barbarian. There's an Empire guy with a kind of pistol handgun thing, and I think that's a Chaos Warrior in the front, but somebody who's got it and can take a closer look can tell me if that's right or not. Thrud the Barbarian gets headhunted by the heavy metal band Death Metal Hammer Slayer Fist Warrior, who want him as their cover boy for their latest album, Cosmic Chaos. But Thrud is apparently not a fan of the kind of, I would guess, glam metal, hair metal that these guys are spouting based on their hairstyle and their studs and their collars of their jackets, and the fact that their lyrics that are indecipherable, something baby. I'm not sure that there will be many death metal bands that have the lyrics baby within them. Who knows? Anyway, Thrud sorts them out. Carl Sargent looks at phobias in Call of Cthulhu. Some interesting phobias here. There's a pickup on a misprint in Call of Cthulhu. Actually, not a misprint, but they got it wrong. So here we are. The Call of Cthulhu rulebook and companion list many phobias, but keepers can always do with more. What is fear of slime called? A phobia relevant to Cthulhu if ever there was one. What is fear of solitude? The Cthulhu companion claims that it's monophobia, but it's wrong. This is a fear of one thing. So seeing as I know a little bit about phobias, interesting. What does Carl Sargent know about phobias? Has he got a psychology background? Anyone know this? And since I've developed 3 or 4 as a result of dealing with the White Dwarf editors, this article reveals many useful secrets. So you've got Alectorophobia, fear of chickens. Amycophobia, fear of being scratched. Batrachophobia, the fear of reptiles, possibly more significant than chickens. Blenophobia, fear of slime. There you go, that's what that's called. Carnophobia, fear of meat. We can work that one out. Cnidophobia, fear of being stung. Cremnophobia, fear of precipices. Again, that seems entirely rational. I can't even say this one. Isoptrophobia, fear of mirrors. Eremophobia, fear of solitude. There you go, that's what it should be, not monophobia. Ergasiophobia, fear of surgery. Hapephephobia, too many fefs in that. Hapephephobia, fear of being touched. Helminophobia, fear of worms. Homiclophobia, fear of fog. Ichthyophobia, fear of fish, yes, like ichthyosaur, right? Lissophobia, fear of insanity. Well, you're playing Call of Cthulhu, you probably shouldn't be so afraid of that. Odontophobia, fear of teeth, yes. Omnatophobia, fear of eyes. Phthrophobia, fear of parasites. Pnigerophobia, Pnigerophobia, I don't know, fear of smothering. Pogonophobia, fear of beards. This is a significant one. Men with beards have 3 outstanding attributes. First, they are fanatics, possibly cultists, and almost certainly mad. Tick. Second, they are sexual deviants of one sort or another. Well, I will let you draw your own conclusion. Finally, they read lots of books, generally the sort of books which should not be read. Well, I do read a fair amount of books, although not as many as I used to. This combination makes them especially dangerous. Beware of men with beards. They are knowledgeable, dangerous, and mad. So I suspect that accounts for about 95% of the people watching this video at the moment. There you go. We're all dangerous and mad, but we knew that already. Cyrophobia, the fear of shadows. Another one I can't say. Siderodromophobia, a fear of railways. That's a pretty cool one. Siderophobia is a fear of the stars. So why is sideromophobia fear of railways and siderophobia fear of the stars? Misprint, or anyone who knows Latin, help me out on that one. Taphophobia, a fear of graves. Triskaidekaphobia, the fear of having 13 trees. Having 13 at a table. There you go. Some things for you to play with. Here's a pretty groovy psychedelic advert for Fireland, and we're going to find out a bit more about Fireland a bit later on. Here's a paranoia article called Do Troubleshooters Dream of Electric Sheep? This is an adventure where, spoiler alert, the troubleshooters find themselves parachuted into a sunny haven where there's miles of grassland, well, a little bit of grassland anyway, surrounding a cottage, surrounded by video screens which project a lot more grassland around the outside of it. This is the refuge of a rogue programmer who is trying to keep it from the computer. So he's gone off-grid and created his own arable pastureland, complete with, of course, robot sheep that are being savaged in various ways. Enter the player characters, the troubleshooters. The programmer has teleported them into his world to try and find out what is destroying his sheep, without hopefully letting the computer know anything about it. There are many options here. There are lots of characters, and there are lots and lots of possibilities. There's very little laid out for the GM in this. You're very much on your own, but here are some possible explanations as to what's going on. So even if somebody has read this article, they won't know until they possibly land on the solution which of these, or which combination of several of these, the GM is going with, which is a pretty cool way of presenting an adventure. Gives lots of scope. Here's another guest appearance from Derek the Troll. We've seen him once before. Here he is back having a really rotten day. And here's another game we've not seen before. This is called On Eldenbergen. I can't resist saying On Eldenbergen by Tat, but that's something different entirely. Is it Bar Tat? Bar Tat. On Eldenbergen Bar Tat. This is a Robin Hood game. So this is set for this is set in the world of Robin Hood as told by Iron Crown Enterprises. And it's a systemless setting, so they're recommending something like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, Middle-earth Roleplaying, AD&D, or Fantasy Hero to run this adventure. And this pits the adventurers, who are a suitably outlawish band, against, of course, Sir Guy of Gisborne, their arch nemesis, who is looking for some treasure on a place called Eldenbergen, and the adventure starts when the players are merrily going through the woods, as a band of merry outlaws do, and they come across a hunting party with a stag on a pole, which is rather unusual in that the stag has in fact been skinned, and there is a man in the skin of the stag, and should the players be fortunate enough to rescue this man, or so inclined to rescue this man, they will find out that he's a poet and he's got a secret, and here is his secret poem, which I am not going to read out, but it's quite rubbish. But I guess you could imagine it being a translation from Old English. It's got that kind of feel to it. Of course, if the players don't feel like rescuing the guy, then this whole adventure doesn't happen, and you'll have to do something else with your evening. But assuming that they rescue him and they get the hint, and they go looking for the treasure themselves, they'll go up onto Eldenbergen, which is a place of ill repute. I don't know if it exists. I don't know Nottinghamshire well enough to know whether Eldenbergen exists, and I've not I've not looked it up. It possibly doesn't have that name. Eldenbergen, it sort of suggests that it means old hill or something like that. So it could be a fairly generic old anglicised name for something that doesn't exist. Anyway, on top of this hill there is a stone circle, of course, and bad things happen at the stone circle, and there is no gold at the stone circle, but there is treasure to be found in the forest should the right set of circumstances happen. Here is where Games Workshop are giving away £2,000 in fantasy miniatures. All you've got to do is write a Warhammer battle scenario featuring 2 2,500 point armies chosen from the Ravening Horde's army list. So you have to go and buy Ravening Hordes, or at least have a friend who's got Ravening Hordes. But I imagine you probably want to anyway, because Ravening Hordes was cool at this time. Look at these photographs, and gives you army lists for 2nd edition. I know many people say that Warhammer armies for 3rd edition was the beginning of the downfall of Warhammer. The fact that you've now got codified army lists that you've got to pick from. Well, actually, Ravening Hordes did that for 2nd edition, and then you've got the Book of Battalions, which didn't codify in the same way, but gave example lists for 1st edition. So it's been kind of moving that way ever since the inception. It's just that 3rd edition armies really kind of pinned it down, and then you had the army books ever afterwards from that point. But Ravening Hordes, very thoroughly decent list. Recommend it. And I wonder if we'll see any of those scenarios happening in the near future. Anyway, here we have an article on societal stuff in D&D. Well, in role-playing generally, but this feels very much set in a D&D kind of society. I guess it would work for something like Pendragon as well. This is looking at various motivations that could happen within the court for people to stab each other in the back, intrigue, sending assassins after each other, manipulating one another, trying to win favour and score points over each other. All that kind of good old politicking stuff from a feudal society. Here we have the wonderful Phil Lewis painting some stunning miniatures here, some miniatures that we will definitely recognise. I only really last night when I was looking back through this, noticed that this photograph, can you see what's wrong with this photograph? This is Kinky Chaoset and a Chaos Warrior. Can you spot what's up with this photograph? Possibly not if it's too dark. I think, well, in fact, I know that figure is back to front. So this photo has been developed in reverse, either intentionally or unintentionally. Are there any others here that are flipped in reverse? I think this one might be. I seem to remember Searstone's arm pointing the other way. This monk facing the other way. I've been looking at these recently for characters for the Lichmaster scenario that we're doing at Bring Out Your Lead. So I've been looking at these recently, and I think that this photo has been flipped. And I'm I haven't checked, but in my memory, Hrothjog is the other way around as well. So I wonder if that's been flipped. But correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I haven't actually checked. It's been a while since I looked. And this guy here as well, I'm pretty sure I've got this guy, and I'm pretty sure from where I've put him in the diorama that he's pointing the other way as well. So I think a few accidental or intentional, don't know, flippings going on there, but lovely painting nevertheless. And here's a suggestion from Phil as to what color combinations to use to get that kind of effect. Oh, this is the advert I was talking about with Fireland. This is the Anywen Worlds of Adventure and Excitement in the Role-Playing System of the Future. There was a thing out here. Right, here we are. An elf screamed to his left, flung off the crag by machine gun fire, dead before he hit the ground. Hideous creatures threw themselves on him, swinging blood-encrusted axes and maces. Tenkerion blocked the first one's blow and riposted with his long sword, slashing deep into the mutated flesh. I should not do audiobooks. The creature howled, falling on his comrades who were stuck scaling up the crag. As the elves fought on, the mutants fell back to Tenkerion began to hope that he might live to see another day in the grim world of Fireland. And then this one is a bit more sort of Renaissance Dune meets Dan Brown, kind of occult popish setting, as suggested settings for this anyway anytime role playing system. Onwards and Upwards covers character advancement in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. You'll remember that we've done a few. We did one on fate points. We did one on building a character, that kind of thing. This is on development, character development, getting new skills, new careers, that kind of thing. Those things that make Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay the genius thing that it is. Here is a very quick comic sketch with Brett Ewins, with the art that he's done from Rogue Trooper there. And Chainsaw Warrior, both featured, and Blood Bowl, in fact, all featured in this edition of White Dwarf. And then we're reaching the back advert, so it feels like this has been... Oh no, sorry, we have yet to look at Arcana. So this is another article. We've had a few of these on Unearthed Arcana for AD&D, generally negative outlook, and this article continues that generally negative outlook on Unearthed Arcana, providing an unofficial errata that tones down some things, lifts some other things, and generally corrects what people see as being or at least this person being Alan Miles, sees as being the weaknesses and the things that have broken the game since Unearthed Arcana became the staple for AD&D. Here's some lovely new Citadel figures, of course. Feels like this has been a fairly packed episode, and I still haven't gone into depth on the letters page. I seem to remember there being some quite fun things on this letters page, but we'll have to cover that at a different time, because time is a cracking on, and I do try and stop these videos becoming too much of a ramble. Otherwise, who's going to want to listen to me rambling for 40 minutes? Not me, that's for sure. Right, let's move on 5 years. Do excuse, incidentally, this little patch here. Rather irritatingly, my super glue bottle fell over and leaked a load of super glue onto my nice green baize. I could attack it with some acetone. I guess that might get it up. I've got some super glue remover, but I don't think it's going to do very much. I will have a go. I was kind of hoping that the exposure to UV light things would make it brittle and I could slowly crack it off, but I think it's very well soaked itself in, and probably as it heated, as it was drying, very well firmed itself into this baize. So, never mind. It could only stay pristine for so. It's not pristine. I've dropped so much PVA glue and stuff on here, but PVA glue is at least easier to soak out. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to waffle too much, so I'm going to stop waffling and crack on with White Dwarf 149. This is May 1992. Robin Dews at the helm. Golden age White Dwarf, of course. We have some news because D-Rock, I think that's how you say it, or is it D-Rock? D-Rock, as in 2000 AD, D-Rock, don't know. We're on their Oblivion 92 tour, and now they're going to be supporting UFO, or UFO if you prefer, touring the UK. So there you go, you could go and see them should you want to. News of the first Space Hulk computer game coming out, which was an exciting move at the time, and the Empire War Wagon. This is an appropriate one because, of course, Games Workshop recently re-released, I think made to order, the War Wagon in resin. Although, to be fair, building a kit like this in metal, not that easy. So releasing it in metal, in resin, may be a good idea. At least they released the people in metal, and they even provided a hand sculpted engineer, the first hand sculpted model Games Workshop have produced for a very long time. So really nice to see that kind of nod to the traditional and, let's face it, far superior way of doing things. Here you've got all the rules for the crew of the War Wagon. Here's the lovely crew of the War Wagon, resplendent in their Perry finery and their bright 90s colour schemes. You've got to admit it's a striking sight, and Empire really does work for these bright colour schemes. I think that kind of medieval garishness is very appropriate, and it's such a fun concept, and all of these weapons are such fun concepts. You've got the man catcher, so if you're riding close to someone, you can hit him with your ball and chain, or grab their necks and break their necks with the man catcher, throw down the cavalry, hook people off their mounts with the hook halberd, and then from further away you've got the repeating rifle, the blunderbuss, and the Hochland long rifle for sniping the enemy general as they're hiding at the back of their foes, being cowardly boo hiss. Some more knights and some Kislev winged lancers, and a bit later we're going to have a discussion on painting those guys. I think that comes up. There's no, it's here. It's in this article. So here's the colours that we use to paint them. And here's a Empire Army list. So Empire Army list was in 47, so 147, so two issues ago. But they've done some tweaking to the regiment costs since then. So now it's cheaper to take a bunch of stuff as a unit and then add on other bits and pieces. And some of these things, it's cheaper to add extra models. So the things that you're supposed to take in a largish unit, they're quite an expensive unit if you just take the bare 10 figures, or 5 figures in some cases. But for every one that you add on after that, it's significantly cheaper. So they want you to be fielding enormous blocks of spearmen, pikemen, halberdiers, that kind of thing. Here's a Raven Armory advert. These still going, I'm reliably informed. Beautiful swords, more beautiful than my sword, but also I'm not sure how forged they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they are all absolutely beautifully forged. I mean, Raven Armory have an immaculate reputation for excellent quality swords, so maybe they are all, and they do it a lot more than I do with my one weekend of forging sword blades, which was so much fun. Here's Thaindon, the Elf Lord of Calador. I think this is a picture that I remember from White Dwarf. When I got this dragon without the wings and without the rider. I don't like the rider. I think he's too chunky looking. I don't really like his wings on the back of his throne. And I like dragons without wings. You know, this dragon without the wings and things looks menacing and creeping, and I can imagine him coming through the forest with the wings. He just looks like he'd get stuck. So I like him without the wings. But I had in my head when I picked this miniature up that somewhere in White Dwarf there was an image of an elf lord coming through a forest on this dragon, and this dragon was kind of naturally painted. He was kind of beigey tones, and the elf lord was very regal looking, and I thought this was like the perfect dragon. And so I've been searching for that picture for ages and ages and ages, and I can't find it, and I must have misremembered, and this is the closest picture to it, who is not a regal elf lord and is not natural muted colours, but is coming through a forest. So there you go, I was partly right. Space Marine Epic Orc vehicles. All the wonderful names of vehicles to have in Epic: the Giblet Grinder, the Brain Crusher, the Skull Hammer, the Bone Cruncher, the Bowel Burner, the Gob Smasher, and the Spleen Ripper. Not only to give you something to play with in Epic, but of course to give you some inspiration to make these things in 40k scale, because who, when they saw these, didn't go, oh yeah, but I want that for my 40k orcs? Of course we all did. Along with the Gargant, although I never actually got around to making... I think I did start making a Titan at one point out of toilet roll tubes, but I didn't get very far with it. There's cards for them. Bikes, Trikes and War Walkers. So here is some more vehicle rules for Rogue Trader. I don't think at this point this is... No, so we've got the older data sheets here. So this is not quite the start of White Dwarf moving to its own vehicle system, preserving the ones from Rogue Trader, possibly. I'm not familiar enough with vehicles in Rogue Trader to know if that is preserved. But anyway, it's not what became the vehicle rules in 2nd edition just yet. Here's some excellent Marauder Dwarf Clansmen, beautifully painted, beautifully sculpted, epitome of dwarfishness, and a Space Hulk, a linked Space Hulk adventure set on Armageddon in the wake of the Battle for Armageddon. There's one hive that, so the lore says, on Armageddon, which surrendered immediately rather than face assault, and it surrendered actually for nefarious reasons, and the reasons are that there's a gene stealer cult infesting the hive, and so the Space Marines have to go in and clear it out. So here are all the missions, significant amounts of missions, and then some extra board tiles to let you do that. Some more lovely Marauder dwarves and some lovely Marauder shields, these engraved shields or sculpted shields. And then we're at the back in the mail order pages and the catalogues with these epic demons. So you've got the Jez Goodwin originals here, and then Colin Dixon's conversions of, I gotta say, these are beautiful. These are a bit goofy. I much prefer these, but you know, these lots, the Demon Princess, lovely, really lovely figures. There's that war wagon, along with some heroes, some wizards, and a volley gun, some halflings, and the best Empire troops ever released with their plug-in weapons. Marine types on bikes. We covered those in the bikes episode. I'm not sure. Was it new? Let's have a look in the catalogue page. Does it say that it's a new one? Oh, yes, there we go. Marines on bikes. So obviously a new variant of marine bike. Although I feel like we saw it in a previous edition. I should go back and watch the previous one. I feel like there were a lot of pictures of these bikes, in the previous issue. But maybe I'm getting confused because I read this one such a long time. Anyway, the Vincent Black Shadow original bike here with a sidecar, and then the new bike with its really silly winged fairings. Yeah, but there you go. It's appropriate, I guess, for Dark Angels and Blood Angels. And some squat bikes, and the Orc War Machines, and the all-important back cover, Blood Angels versus Eldar. There we go. So I have rabbited on for quite long enough. Sorry for people from the 90s that I didn't spend much time on that. I was too busy rabbiting away about the 80s White Dwarf. But it's worth taking time over because, as I say, I think next issue we're going to see this starts to move away from this into this kind of format. So it'll be interesting to see just how rapidly that takes place. Anyway, that's next month. Next week we're going to be looking at another 5 years on. So join me for that. In the meantime, take care, and I shall see you later.